Drew, play drums. Um, yeah, I'm pretty much only in Dissona.
Yeah, nice.
I'm Craig. I play bass.
Cool.
I'm Matt. I play guitars. David, vocals.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, Dissona, welcome to Nightbreed. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
It's cool. I looked on Metal Archives and it's got there's like 3 different states written down as where you guys are based. Is that correct? Or you're all in Chicago?
It's basically, I mean, we're in different suburbs of Chicago, so
sure.
we just say Chicago, but we're all like 20 to 30 minutes apart from each other.
Yeah, cool. Oh, that's cool. So what brought you all together originally? Like, do you all know each other already, or was a couple of you looking for prog musicians? Like, how did that work?
Well, this was we started out in high school. Matt and I were both in the same guitar class. We sat next to each other, and Matt asked me to play bass for a gig that he was an upcoming gig, and I said yeah. And I did not play bass, but I just decided yeah. So that's how I jumped on. And then Matt and I kind of worked together really well, and we like to play together. So we decided to keep going. And David and I were in a previous project, never really got anywhere, but we had been jamming together for years, and I knew how talented he was. So I was like, hey, if you need a vocalist, I got a guy. And so we auditioned David, and he was a great fit. And then Drew could tell his part of the story because he's got a unique part of the story as well.
Yeah, I'm from St. Louis originally, and they're all Chicago people, and I kind of moved up here like on an accident, really. Like I didn't really mean to live here. And I got kind of bored and just tried to I was looking for people to play with, and actually joined a folk band for a little bit. I'm into all kinds of stuff like fusion and metal and like lots of genres put together. So folk wasn't really doing it for me. And then Dissona contacted me for like a meet up and like I don't know what did you guys get, like an audition meetup, something like that. And we really just kind of hung out and talked about music, and they showed me a lot of their music, and just one of their tracks, a few like the intro seconds of it, I like decided this is the band I'm going to join now, and quit the other band. And that was in 2009, I think.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. So obviously the new EP is coming out soon, but you've put out 3 albums since the band began. How has your recording approach changed over the years?
That's a great question. When our first album that we don't really talk about too much, 10 Masks, which is probably on Metal Archives and stuff, that was mostly done in our old keyboardist basement, I think. No soundproofing whatsoever, a big open, partially unfinished basement.
Software.
Tons of reverberations, like software from all over the internet. Like it was just kind of a chaotic mess, but it sort of matched the energy of the music we were making.
Poor kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think I mixed most of it at Craig's old house in his kitchen on like Logitech.
Oh yeah.
It was just a mess. But that was a long time ago. The second album, we were fortunate enough to have built a very sort of simple, isolated studio room in David's old house. Functional, yeah, that's it, functional. Just enough space to fit a drum kit tightly. So there's a really, really, really low, roomy drum sound on that record. But we did that all there in David's treated basement. And then when Paleo Pneumatic came around, I don't even remember. I think we did a lot of that in my apartment.
I think a lot of us here.
Yeah,
So the drums in my basement.
Yeah,
right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, so we did like guitars, vocals, bass. All that was done here in my apartment. I have a control room in one of the bedrooms, and then we recorded the drums at Drew's old house. Once again in an untreated, basement room. But that was, I think I stayed out that way for like a week, and we just did like 2 or 3 songs a day just because of how intense they were to get done, and then we knocked that one out. But the EP, same deal with the everything but the drums. We did all of that here, and then Drew now has his own house a couple of towns over, and he's converted the garage into an actual isolated drum room So he handled all his own recording there for the drums. And then I did all of the post-production on the drums and the mixing and all that stuff.
This band is very extremely DIY. Like we've done a lot. A bulk of every part of each release was completely in house.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I've listened to some of the earlier stuff, but the Prodigal Son certainly has an edge over it production wise. So it's good. It's getting better, obviously. It's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How does songwriting work for Dissona? Because when a stoner rock band tells me, we jam it out or something, I can kind of imagine that. But prog seems much more orchestrated. Like I can't imagine jamming on a riff for a prog song. Like how do you guys put the songs together?
Oh man, I couldn't even imagine if that was how we did it. Starting with a riff and going on with it. But usually the stuff we write, like we're sort of painting ourselves as like a cinematic progressive metal band now. So before we even write any bit of music, we usually end up having a meeting, and then we discuss the concept, like the stories we're trying to tell. And we even go through, like a rough track by track, like, oh, this track can focus on this and maybe has this sort of instrumentation, and then this track might focus on this, and then we do that as much as we can, and then we go to writing. Usually I write a lot of the preliminary music, and then when I get what I feel like is a solid first draft, I send it off to the guys and tell them to change whatever you want, make the parts your own, let me know if anything's just purely not good, and we sort of sculpt it from there. And then there's pre-production. So once that's all done, once the composition is sort of confirmed, like I'll go in and start doing the layering over some of the, like computerized MIDI guitar parts and stuff like that. And then I'll record legitimate guitars. And then at some point, the legitimate drums will come in, and then, bass, and then usually vocals are kind of towards the end. And then I may go back and redo the layering, fix that up, and the whole process is extremely organic. Like even if David decides a word isn't any good, or like a melody needs to change, it's like ripples in a pond. Like everything may need to be reevaluated to make sure that we, the flow is still what we're going for.
To expand on the cinematic thing, with the song structures, it's really uncommon song structures. There's not typical verse chorus like ever. There's really nothing like that. And then I feel like that kind of speaks to the cinematic portion of things, that like a movie doesn't have a verse chorus that goes back and forth. And when you look at, especially like when you look at how Matt composes these parts before they're finished, each section has like a title that kind of describes the intensity or the feeling that's going on. And like there's no real need to then repeat each section in a copy and paste sort of format. If there is anything repeated, it'll have a different title, and there might be a nuanced part, but there'll be enough different things about it that like if you're learning the part as a musician, you need the music, because it will be different enough. There'll be specific things changed about it that make it not like the first time, So like it's pretty technical and detailed, and like a lot of memorization.
Yeah, I much prefer to write in themes. So like exactly what Drew's talking about, like when I'm thinking about the song, like we write technical stuff, we're writing music for musicians, but we also want it to be very easily consumed by the casual listener, like someone who may not have a musical bone in their body, but they love good music. So one way that I like to create familiarity in a song is by having a theme, and then that theme sort of gets taken through the ringer throughout the song, and maybe evolves and changes, or maybe it does get sort of pushed down, but you hear it come back subtly somewhere else. It all depends on the piece, but we definitely don't want to be one of those sort of chaotic progressive metal bands where like everything just almost feels exactly like random, like okay, here's one section, cool riff, next section. Like we want it to feel very organic and make sure each song has an identity.
Cool. Alrighty. So I can edit this, which is good, so I can cut out little yeah. So how do you go about deciding like lead breaks and that kind of thing? Like, is there a discussion, or is it sort of one of your jobs to go, okay, we need something here for this part, you know?
That's all definitely just part of the organic process. There's never ever the talk of like, okay, yeah, we need this many solos and we need that's never a thing. It just sort of,
if a solo is needed, it's in there.
it just happens, yeah. And sometimes like there have been songs where I'm like, man, like the energy of the song, I would love to have had a solo in here, but it just, if I would have forced it in there, I would have been doing exactly that, forcing something else in there just for my, own vanity, which is never ever a thing with this music. So yeah, it just has to feel right. And I think throughout all of our discography, we all have solos. I mean, drum, bass, guitar, like there's always some time, where it's like, oh yeah, like I think the bass should do a solo, or like, the drums should be soloing here.
Doesn't another guy have 2 bass solos?
There's one bass solo and there's one bass like lead
the riff.
break.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen in any other song.
No.
Right. Well, it kind of reminds me of the way John Fogerty from Creed's Clearwater Revival, he has a kind of a philosophy of songwriting where, there's 3 or 4 separate elements, and obviously Dissona might have a lot more, but it's similar in that there's 3 or 4 separate elements, and if one is taking the lead here, when that drops back off, this one takes the lead, and when this one drops back off, this one might take the lead, and it's just all kind of playing off each other. Nothing's overshadowing another thing on purpose. It's all purposeful, even if it might sound a little dense.
No, that's cool. So tracks like Outside the Skin, that's got sort of like an electro beat thing going like at the start at least, rather than traditional drums. How did something like that happen? Like, is that a chance for Drew to go have a drink or something? Well,
We have played that live, actually.
I think we've only done it once or twice, and I actually play. I don't know. Matt doesn't really like it because it throws him off, but I improv like crazy in there, and I play like completely what I feel like jazz like. I will say though, there is a groove in the earlier part of the song that it only goes 4 times in a row, but it's probably one of the most complicated things that is a drum part in Dissona. And it's one of those weird things that Matt wrote that it kind of isn't natural to play at all. He doesn't care about right and left hands or anything.
I'm not a drummer.
So but I liked how it all sounded so much. So I spent a good 3 or 4 solid days just working on that beat that only happens 4 times. And it's really hard to play, but I wanted to make it sound like I was written,
Yeah, that's cool.
The birth of that. Yeah, the birth of that track is a lot like any of our other songs where it comes from a very specific cocktail of emotions, and you have to decide what is appropriate instrumentation for this certain emotion that you're trying to convey, and just like anything else, we had to adapt in that way where organic drums probably wouldn't do the song a service. And we already have a deep love for electronic music to begin with, and it was just sort of an opportunity to add a more delicate electric feel to a song that's meant to convey beauty and love. So
being in the womb, right?
Essentially, yeah.
That was also one of the fastest written songs ever.
Was it? Oh,
yeah, because it was it was during the production or the recording process of Paleo Pneumatic. So I think the first song, Another Sky, was already 3 or 4 years old at that point, because it was one of the first songs that Matt had started putting together after the self-titled album came out. And Outside the Skin, I remember Matt writing in probably 2 or 3 days and very few revisions. And it was in the studio, and it was one of those songs where we've spent years on one song and we spent hours on another.
Wow. I don't even remember that.
You're unearthing new memories here.
There you go. So the Prodigal Son, the video is cool. It's a pretty slick cinematic looking production. Are there
Yeah.
like specific filmic influences in there that you guys are trying to sort of emulate?
I don't think there were any conversations like that. We were very fortunate to have met a veteran Chicago cinematographer named Daryl Miller. And like early on in our sort of interview with him and then following conversations where we were getting to know him, we realized that he sees things very similarly to how we do. So a lot of like, the execution and what you're seeing, like a lot of it was just sort of us having more, I guess, broad ideas about like, okay, this shot is this, we're trying to show this. And then we sort of let him set up the shot, show us what he's doing. And then we would yes or no, or sculpt if we needed to. But a lot of that was just him, like saying, oh, why don't we try something like this? Or like, okay, why don't we like just, shoot something like that. But he's very adamant about it not being too, it's got to be interesting. It's got to be exciting. He doesn't want to see the same thing over and over again. That's exactly.
I'd say it's adaptable because like there was no rigid anything for structure on when things should be, and it just kind of like fell into place on its own a little bit.
Right. Yeah, we had our story. We had the broad strokes of the story, and then each day of the shoot we had a rough shot list, but he sort of would take that and just go, okay, like we're gonna go to the lab, or let's get something like this, and then so it was a very very organic, easygoing process working with him. And we've worked with other professionals before, like audio and visual, and usually there's some sort of like butting of the heads, like I don't know if this guy really gets us, or if he's even trying to get us. But with Daryl, it was like, that's cool, yeah, let's roll with that. It was great.
And the eye of a professional cinematographer is something that, I mean, I don't know where you would get it otherwise. He has the technical background and the equipment, and he has the experience to know what this equipment can do, what it's going to do, what it's going to look like at the end. And he's able to just use all of this knowledge together that we couldn't have possibly done it on our own. There's no way. It was a very valuable asset.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. No, nice one. And obviously you guys have had the logo change. What made you guys decide to change it up, change the look of the Dissona logo?
Well, the old logo always sort of needed a professional upgrade to begin with. And it was around the time when the pandemic hit, when we were preparing to release a new album, that we decided, okay, we need to do this album justice in all ways possible. How are we going to make the logo fit the professionalism of our new level of music? And we had Ben Hewitt work on a few different variations, which we still we have a bank.
Yeah, we've got other ones.
And we'll pull out when appropriate. But this one in particular that he created for us simply matched the content of this EP better than the rest of them. It was just this simple, sleek look that can accompany sort of a science fiction theme,
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, the Dreadfully Distinct EP is out November 10. What can you tell us about the other two tracks, Renaissance and Skin Job?
All three songs are very different from each other. That's consistent with how we do our albums, where every song needs to be very different, and with the EP it's no different. So the Renaissance is I don't want to give too much away, but it's a much faster tempo. The energy of that song is nearly maximized as far as we're concerned. Very, very intense, very sweaty. but still full band. You know, like a ton of action in that song, to say the least.
The hardest drum song I've ever recorded.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I think Drew was doing the recording of that like 4 in the morning at his house. He was
between 4 and 7 a.m. was the only stuff I ever kept.
just weird to shred. It's crazy. And then Skin Job is sort of on the opposite end a little bit. It's more in the punch zone. So it's a bit more of a cruiser, but it's got a lot of, it's a very dynamic track. You know, there's basically 2 distinct halves to it, and there's a very significant transformation that happens in the song right in the middle.
And an actual chorus.
And yeah, oh yeah, there's an actual chorus. How about that? That almost never happens. But yeah, they're both great songs. We've got, you know, professional, like what you see with the Prodigal Son, we've got that level of, you know, pro shot video components with both songs. So there's a lot to be excited about in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, cool. Oh, that's great. So when will we see those videos? Are they going to come out with the release or beforehand? Like, what's the plan?
I think the schedule right now is Skin Job's going to be next, and that'll be sometime later next week, by the end of next week. So that's the week of October 13th. Yeah, Friday, October 13th.
Oh, nice.
You can expect that one.
Cool.
And then the final track will be debuting the week of the actual EP release date, just because I guess it just happens that way with an EP.
Yeah.
And that'll be around November 10th, so probably that week. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool. Oh, God. All right. So away from Dissona for a little bit. What are you guys listening to lately?
No, geez. I've been listening to a lot of this band called House of Waters. It's a band that has a hammered dulcimer in it. And it's like hammered dulcimer is like the melody lead instrument, and then there's bass and drums. And I like listening to really weird stuff where the drum set is not prevalent, because I like to play along to music a lot, and I like to be the drum set myself. So I actually don't listen to a lot of bands and metal and stuff with drummers in it that often, just because like I'm literally trying to find stuff with no drums.
I've been listening to a ton of this rapper, Billy Woods. He just released a new album this year with Kenny Siegel producing it. He just came out with another new album with this other rapper, Elucid. They're a duo called Armand Hammer, and he like blows my mind, and I've been obsessed with him for months now. And that's this main significant one. Other than that, I just kind of like, I listen to mostly like black metal's the new kind of stuff that I'll seek out. But yeah, that's what I lately.
As far as I go, I'm terrible about listening to music. I may have like the itch to listen to a very specific song, and I seek out that song, I listen to it, and that's it. Or it's listening to music as purely like background for me doing another task. And if that's the case, it'll be no vocals, you know, like instrumental only, maybe electronic or something. I don't know. But I still listen to a lot of Opeth. I mean, like I love the old, you know, Opeth. I listen to that. I always listen to Edge of Sanity, Crimson 2. It's just like the kind of the same shit, you know, like whatever I feel like in that moment in time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
For me, I'm kind of in I go through eras where I just need silence, you know, for several months. So I'm still kind of in that right now, but I feel like I'm probably gonna start you know, my annual autumn visit of certain artists such as Imperium. I'll probably start listening to them again. It's like the same with film, you know, you have the movies you watch in the fall, you know, The Shining is probably going to be, you know, one that I revisit soon, and then that'll kind of help me decide what kind of music I want to listen to. But yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, what have you been listening to?
I really like the new Venomous concept. I've been listening to that a lot. That's really good. What else? I got the new Drab Majesty EP the other day. I really like them. Have you guys heard them at all? They're like New York kind of, the New York duo. They sort of do new wave electro-y synthy stuff. I really like them.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. Craig, you're also in Dismelimerance, right? Like you guys just put out a split last year.
Dismelimerance.
I knew I was going to start.
Yeah, I know. It could be a tough one, I know.
So, where's that band at the moment? You guys put out a split last year. Obviously you got Dissona stuff going on. Is there plans for something coming up with that band?
Yeah, we have another split is coming up. I don't want to reveal too much about that, but that one's gonna be cool. The next full length is being mixed at the moment. That one will probably, I would imagine early 2024 that comes out.
Oh, cool.
And then this Wednesday we got a show in Chicago with this band. Have you heard of Fires in the Distance?
Oh, okay. No. Is that
very cool? Like they're very cool, like doom deathy, great leads. Them and Dawn of Ouroboros, who I admittedly am not too familiar with, but that's gonna be a cool show. So yeah, there's some action coming out with them.
Yeah, cool. Actually, talking shows, does Dissona mostly play around Chicago, or do you guys kind of venture out further in the US?
We did one huge tour with Leprous, the Norwegian prog metalers, prog rockers, I guess more now, and that was amazing. That was we hit all the major US cities and like 6 or 7 Canadian ones. It was at least for us, it was a flawless tour. There were no van issues. There were no thefts. There was nothing like that. No broken bones. It was great. But usually, like just as sort of padding shows, we'll do stuff in the city in Chicago. And really, like we look at openings for larger bands. So like if there's a band that we fit on, we have great relationships with all the promoters around here. So either they'll reach out and say, hey, I got something for you, or we'll just say, hey, why don't we see Neil Blumskaris is coming through? Like, is there an opener slot? And then it usually just kind of goes from there. But we are under new management right now. We signed a worldwide deal with EMG, and the plan there is to start sort of looking at more tours and festivals and stuff for 2024 after this EP comes out. So right now we're pushing the music, and then we'll shift our focus onto shows later in the year.
Yeah, cool. And what's the plan? Like, will there be a longer release at some point, or is this like the EP? This is it, and then like after some shows, you'll figure out what's coming next, kind of thing.
Well, we still have the aforementioned third official album that we were recording, right before the inspiration for this EP hit. So now that all of the pandemic nonsense has sort of come to a close, we'll be looking at that and how we're going to release that and stuff early next year. So we got some interesting ideas with that, but definitely some news on that front should start coming out on Q1 of 2024.
Music will be coming out for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, there won't be any more. Like, I mean, it's been 7 years since the last album. That's not going to happen again, never again. So it was very difficult for us to sort of go through that. And we, in the background, we sort of looked at ways that we can make sure that doesn't happen again. So
yeah, good to hear, man. That's cool. And one last question. How do you think the Chicago Bulls are faring this season? Like the season's about to kick off. Are there any basketball fans here?
I haven't paid attention. I feel like I could probably confidently be the only one who actually paid attention to the Bulls in the past year.
Yep.
Okay.
And I haven't paid attention because I have a relatively new child. I'm not tuned into the Bulls.
Yeah,
I've been watching them. I can't. I know they're not going to be great. I know they're not going to be great.
Sort of.
Yeah.
We'll see. No, cool. Awesome. All right, look, I'm David, Matt, Craig, Drew. Thank you very much for your time. Pleasure to meet you guys. And yeah, I'm looking forward to these other 2 videos. That's cool. Thanks a lot, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having us.
Cool. Have a good one. See ya.
You too.